Welcome to the Natural Doctors. We run a monthly webinar, and this is one of those. This is our summer special edition. I'm Xandra, I'm a chiropractor, and I've run the back clinic in Poynton for the last 10 years, treating thousands of patients.
I'm Jess. I was an NHS doctor for 5 years before leaving, and I've practiced natural and personalised medicine for the last 15 years, including herbs, acupuncture, homeopathy, and functional medicine.
We're sisters, and 5 years ago we decided to put our knowledge onto the website thenaturaldoctors.com. This is where you can go for any question you have on natural health, and we'll try and answer it. These questions and answer sessions really are based around the fact that you can see us live, you can ask us questions live. We also put this out to our members recently, and in the community that's on Natural Doctors, they are allowed to send us emails and ask us questions in advance. All of these webinars, of course, are recorded and then we put onto the website later, so you don't have to catch them live, you can catch them later on. So we should go to the questions, really. So I'll start asking the first one. So do I need to take vitamin D in summer?
So I think this is a difficult question because it would depend where your vitamin D level is. So too much vitamin D can be bad. Unlike a lot of other vitamins, a lot of those are water soluble. We can get rid of them really easily. Unfortunately, vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin, and it's one that we can become toxic in if we take too much. However, the vast majority of the UK population are actually very low in vitamin D and what we call suboptimal. And that's around 80% of us. Particularly if you stay inside a lot, if you are covered with your clothes most of the time and you're not going out on sunny holidays, or you're not an outdoor worker. So I would say that having your level checked is something your GP can do for you very simply. They will check it and they will tell you that below 50 is low, but you actually want it over 70 to be optimal. And that range of 70 to 200 is a good range to sit in. And as long as you're not going over that 200, you're safe to take anywhere between 1,000 to 4,000 IU of vitamin D daily. Usually alongside a K would be great. And children should really consider taking a vitamin D supplement. In this country, we're much more likely to be low. But if you're not sure, just go and have a test to get checked.
Perfect.
Next one. Yep. Gardening always hurts my back. How do I stop this?
So essentially, it's very, very common now that we would jump into the garden. We're going to spring or summer, especially summer. I know when we're struggling to keep on top of the garden at the moment, it's a bit of a monster. And you start getting very, very active. But you have to realize gardening is a fantastic exercise for you. It's whole body. It incorporates cardio, weights, it's stretching, it's twisting, it's bending. It's fantastic flexibility. The problem comes in is that when we go to the gym for 1 hour. When we go to garden, I know I can spend easily 3 or 4 hours in the garden and time gets away from you. Question is, when you finish, do you stretch out? Do you foam roller? Do you use ice packs? I would say most people don't. They come in and they collapse, or they might have a glass of water and fall onto the sofa. So it's treating your garden like it's your gym with then get rid of back pain. So I would say stretch as soon as you come in. A foam roller is ideal. Please drink loads of water. So a good rule of thumb is, say, every hour in the garden, you should be having a glass of water. So set a timer, do anything. Just go and get a glass of water and then carry on. As soon as you finish and you foam rolled and you're stretched, put an ice pack on your lower back, and you'll find then you don't feel sore later in the evening, and you should feel much better the next morning. You can always carry that ice pack on if you need to, but then it means you can enjoy the garden, get all the fantastic benefits of being in the soil, of working at your body, but also you're not hurting yourself, ready for the next day. Great. Perfect.
Should we do the YouTube one that we've got?
Yes. Yeah, we've also got one that's just come in actually. So what to take to keep your blood pressure down. So if someone has, for example, this person has a low BMI, gave up smoking ages ago, and they seldom add salt. They also don't eat much meat, occasionally fish, some fruit, dairy, and vegetables. What could they do to help their blood pressure?
So I think the first thing to always think with blood pressure is, are you hydrating well enough? And that's because your blood vessels are tubes, and when you don't have enough water in your system, enough volume, then they constrict, so they make a smaller tube. And sometimes, particularly as we get older, we're less good at relaxing that tube back again, so that pressure can stay higher. So I think that the first thing you should do is try and make sure that your water intake is pretty good throughout the day, and not just tea and not just fizzy drinks and juices. They don't really count as much as water or herbal teas. So try and keep that, especially in this weather, probably about 2 litres. That will also, and you'll often see your blood pressure just evens out with that in a lot of people. For others, there are a lot of other background reasons we can have high blood pressure. One of them is a low-grade inflammation. That means that something in our body is triggering your immune system to be a bit overactive. And we can have things like foods and diet. We can have toxins. We can have stress. Unfortunately, that's a bit more complex and you might need a functional medicine practitioner. But there are a few really great simple tips that you can use to lower your blood pressure. And if that's being monitored regularly by you alongside your doctor, you could do that before starting medication. And I think as your weight's optimal already, then we'd probably say that beetroot juice is one of the easiest and the simplest ones to try. And it's one of my favorites because it can work on really, really high blood pressures. I have a patient whose blood pressure at one point was very high at 220 over 190, which is pretty medical emergency level. We ideally want it to be 140 and under that top number, and the bottom number definitely under 90, under 80 ideally. And so they were very high with their blood pressure, and we got them to drink 200 mils of beetroot juice every day. And we saw that drop down to 160 over 80 in a matter of a week. And that was unbelievably quick. And it's actually because beetroots contain nitrates, which make those blood vessels dilate again, dropping the volume, dropping the pressure. So beetroot juice is a really easy way. You can also do 100 mils a day if it's not too bad. And I think if you're monitoring, this is something you could discuss with your GP. But long term, you may want to work on the root cause, working on whether that's stress, inflammation, and things like meditation can help you, and maybe work with a practitioner.
Yeah, I would also say that one of the ideal things is just make sure your diet is right. So we can't answer a huge number of diet questions on here, but I would just say we do have the diet program Refresh. It is there designed to make sure your inflammation levels are low, just as a nice kind of root cause reset for your diet, just to give you a nice foundational level. Jess has put so much work into it. And it's a good idea just to have a go at it, really. And it also leads me nicely onto the next question, because someone's just asked about Refresh.
Yeah, thank you, Linda.
Yeah, well done for starting Refresh today. This is good. So what she asks is, a couple of recipes, for example, the cookie dough suggest sugar. Is that okay to use?
So you can, as I've said in it, you can use a small amount of sugar, because really, although we're trying to get sugar as low as possible, and people then worry about adding extra sugar, it's really, when you work it out per cookie dough ball or per muffin that we've worked out in the recipes, is actually a very low level and should still allow you to go into ketosis, no problem. The only reason that we like to use sugar vida instead, or use something that breaks down a little bit more slowly to sugar. So it's not that the sugar's any different, it's just that instead of going up with a sugar peak, it kind of goes up more gently and down more gently. And I think you'll find that you feel better having the sugar vida. It's also got some other interesting health benefits because it's an Ayurvedic medicine as well, and it's been used for a long time. So it's one of our favorites that we really like. It is a bit more expensive and it does take time to arrive. So you're welcome to use sugar or honey in the same level, and you'll find that won't knock you out of ketosis. Just don't go crazy eating loads. I'm afraid you can't have lots of them. I think for most people to be in ketosis, that carb level has to be usually 20 grams and 30 sometimes, but 20 in other people.
I say sure we start at 20. I mean, we can eat hugely different numbers of carbs because, I'm 5'11", just because 5 foot.
I'm small, midget,
6-ish. And so, it's sort of, it is based on what you can do. Also, it's based on activity levels. I have a job where I move literally all day, so I can eat more carbs and stay in ketosis.
Yeah.
But I would say whenever we start Refresh, I still go right down to 20 grams when I start, and I only increase that after a number of weeks. So if you're starting it off, I'd say go straight for 20.
It's also very much to do with the food. So I think because there are a lot of things in there that are fibers, they slow down that sugar breakdown. If you went and ate your chocolate bar that seemed like it was okay because it was maybe 10 grams, you would find your blood sugar spikes, and often that'll knock you straight out. But actually 30 grams of carbs in a sweet potato, and it breaks down so slowly that actually it's different. So it's a really tricky question. You'll have to experiment a bit with the sticks and see whether you stay in ketosis. But yes, I think you'll be fine with the sugar. In the recipes, we've tried to make it so that everybody goes usually into that ketosis state. And there's some troubleshooting on there if you get stuck that runs through the diet if you can't do that.
But the snacks really are the key. They really will help in those first few days, don't they?
Yeah.
And they're gorgeous, those ones. I love cookie dough. Yeah. Right, on to our next question. I always get bitten a lot by insects on holiday. What can I do?
So I think if you go onto the Natural Doctors and put in natural insect repellent in the search, and I can't remember which zone that's in, I should know the answer, maybe Staying Well, then I think you'll find our natural insect repellent recipe, which you can make yourself using vodka and a few essential oils. It's fantastic. We have used it, I don't know how long for
10
now.
years?
Yeah, and we never get bitten. And we also have patients, like probably almost thousands now we're in, where patients have bought it and taken it all over the world on holiday to places where they get bitten by mosquitoes, and they can see that benefit. We're going to talk in a minute about sunscreen, but we're thinking we might merge it with a sunscreen we make ourselves, actually, because it's so effective using that combination. But the other thing to consider is what we find really interesting is if I'm on keto diet, things don't bite me ever. And I think it's something to do with the sugar. I think that probably you sweat out your sugar a bit and they're a bit sweet smelling and that bugs like to bite you. But I find it fascinating that if I'm on quite a low carb diet, then I don't get bitten anywhere near as much. And the other thing that would also go with that is if you eat quite a lot of garlic, then most insects and most even parasites, anything, do not like the smell of garlic, and it's a repellent. Yeah. So actually eating a lot of garlic in your food when you go on holidays may not be fun for the other person in your life, but also maybe
make them eat it too.
Make them eat it too, yeah. But it's great for not being bitten.
Also just add a little thing about our insect repellent is actually the fact that I made this for the clinic, and it accidentally got mixed up in our clinic as room spray. And I would say to this day, 4 years later, I'm still asked to make our room spray because it smells so good.
Smells great.
I haven't quite told everyone that actually technically it's insect repellent.
It doubles as a deodorant if you get stuck.
I wear it as
perfume.
Walk around because it smells good, because it's all essential oils, so it smells great
and lemony, and it's nice.
Gets away with a lot, which is fantastic. On to the next one. So it's actually a question that's technically from me, actually. So should I eat different foods in summer because I don't fancy vegetables as much?
So I think we can all tell that we don't really fancy eating the heavy, stodgy foods in summer. And that's because it's a time when our body is in a yang state, it's in a hot state, hopefully, although in Britain that can change. But generally, hopefully, we're in a warm state. And that means that we want to have foods that help cool us down. And those foods that help cool us down, actually bitter is some of the cooling that really pushes the cold foods out. And a bitter food example would be like cucumber is a little bit bitter. You can tell that rocket is a little bit bitter when you have it. But we also want to stick to a lot of those green foods that are cooling. You can have green juices that will help you cool down, limes, also things like melon. You can tell that's cooling actually. And I think that you can tell from hot countries where they eat so much watermelon, it's one of those things that rehydrates you and cools you down at the same time. So it's great. And the other thing that you can do alongside it is try and avoid some of the foods that heat you up. So some of the foods that heat you up would be lamb, spicy food, anything that you sort of feel a flush in your face when you have it. And chilies, curries, all those things.
Alcohol.
Yeah, alcohol is a very heating thing, and it's controversial because we don't drink really. But I would say that, I understand that you want to drink. Probably stay to the ones that are more cooling naturally. So red wine is really hot. You can tell because you get flushed when you drink it. But white wine's less hot. And gin and tonic water is a bit cooling. So you can cheat a bit and you can go towards the alcohols that are not going to have such a strong effect on your heat. And that might make it a bit better. And obviously smoking, if you try and cut your smokings down, if you're getting really hot. Aloe vera, green juices, and yogurts and things like that. That dip that they make with curries can really help as well. The Rated dip that is really good as well. Okay.
Yep.
So next question, beds on holiday. So when you go on holiday and you go to a hotel, the beds that you get, the change in sleeping positions, change in pillows, everything can often really help hurt your back, as can sun loungers. What can you do to stop that?
This is a question I get asked all the time as a chiropractor. So sun loungers, everyone always comes in with some guilt that they've been using a sun lounger, which isn't very surprising on holiday. It's actually fine to use one. It's just the fact that you have to adapt it. So normally you can either take your own towel or you can get towels when you're there. And I would just say, have 2 spares. Roll them up, put one in the curve of your lower back and put one underneath your knees. And what you'll find is by doing that, you're supporting the nice, lovely curve in your lower back, but also by lifting the knees up a little bit, taking the pressure off the back of the pelvis. And then you'll find you can lie there a little bit longer. I'm not going to judge you for this one, I promise. I'd also say that if you are on a sun lounger, normally it also means there's a pool right next to you. So just get up every hour and go and do a couple of lengths and then come back again, so that you're just mixing and matching slightly. Roll over, keep lying on one side, other side, move around on the lounger. It will also help the tan to some extent as well. When it comes to beds on holiday, it's a really mixed bag. I would say often they're rubbish. So it's having a little look at it. Now, if the bed is really soft, there is not a huge amount you can do, because you can't actually make a bed harder. You have to just kind of cope with it a little bit. But if the bed's hard, there's loads you can do. So the first thing is see if you can get an extra duvet, put it underneath the sheet before you lie on it, and you'll find just that little bit of softness allows your curves to sink in, and it will absolutely transform it. So that's the first thing I would do. I'm a nightmare for every time I go on holiday, ripping up all of the bedding, see what sort of bed I'm lying on before I go there. We go to Centre Parks in a couple of weeks, and I know I take as many things as possible to make that more comfortable. I will take an extra duvet with me.
Our own pillows.
I take our own pillows with us. Foam roller is my best friend. I will always take it with me. And everyone laughs at me for the first 2 days. And by day 3, everyone's using it.
If you're in a case, you could take a spike.
It's true. Actually on holiday to abroad, I took our foam roller to New York with us.
You did actually. That was true.
Because I worked out it's hollow. So I just stuffed all the clothes that were Jessica's now. All the clothes that I didn't care about down the middle of the tube, and it didn't matter when you got to the end, because if it's hollow, you're not going to lose a lot. But I have so many patients who come back from holiday and like, I was on holiday, all I was looking at was how many foam rollers can I buy when I'm there, and I was like, just take one with you, and then you can loosen it off, and usually that fixes the bed or sun lounger problem. Great. Okay. Another question come in. So, do you know of anything natural that helps combat music performance or anxiety nerves?
So I think we could start with you can do some techniques like meditation and other things to calm yourself down beforehand and make you feel more relaxed. However, I would say natural remedies that you can take. Well, in the homeopathic spectrum, there are some great remedies. One of them is called Argent Knit. It's for anticipation anxiety. Sometimes you can tell because it makes your stomach feel a bit uncomfortable. So occasionally it can even make things a bit uncomfortable. You need to go to the toilet. That kind of anxiety that gets quite strong, Argent Knit can be fantastic. Really, really great remedy. And you can test that out and just buy it in a 30C. You can buy it in places like Boots and online, and just take one of those up to every 10 minutes if you need it. Yeah. Alongside, you can use some of the flower essences, which are really great for that. You've got Emergency Essence, which is a bush flower essence, which I use quite often. And there's a really available one, Rescue Remedy, which you can buy in most supermarkets. You can buy it in sprays. And people think that flower essence is a kind of voodoo medicine in some ways and don't really work, but they've done some really large studies to show amazingly strange things that improve, like all the blood pressure parameters and all the cholesterol, and a double-blind randomized controlled trial showed that with the flower essence. So they do have impact on us. Yeah. The other thing that you can use is, we talked to the CBD brothers, a few weeks ago, and CBD would be a reasonable one to consider in this situation if it's getting really strong. And you could take it as drops, or you could drink it in a drink. You could pick, whatever seems better for you, and just see if that calms things down a little bit. There are herbs in here as well. I really love my herbs, but I tend to blend them for patients in this situation. In the clinic, we use something called Amber Tonic, and it's a mixture of a herb called Scutellaria latiflora, which you can buy online in tincture. And just taking, maybe a teaspoon of that, it's a wonderful herb for calming. I would try that as well if you're struggling. Brilliant. Yeah, hope that helps.
So to our next question. So it's an allergies question now. So I struggle with pollen and dust and can have problems when we travel. What would you suggest?
So actually, this is a very personal topic for me, I think, as my daughter is allergic to dogs, cats, dust, pollen, and olives.
And grass.
And grass pollen, grass pollen and olives.
Crazy with grass.
She is, she's IgE allergic to all of those, which makes her very strong, and she has a very strong reaction. But we have her fully controlled using natural remedies, but also actually using homeopathy, which I have to say was actually probably more powerful than the other remedies, and had a phenomenal reaction. And I'm a homeopath and I love remedies, but I sometimes forget, because I get very into my supplements, how amazingly good they can be. And we're using in potency, low potencies, we're using grass pollens, we're using dog dander, cat dander, and dust mite in pollen, but in potency. And I would say that if you're struggling with pollen and dust, you could consider using the mixed pollens and grasses. I go very low, and I think if you can get them in an X potency, or even just take them in a 30, you can get those from helios.co.uk that you can get them from. It's a homeopathic pharmacy, and just take the grass pollens daily. And you can also buy dust mite in the same potency low and take them every single day. And I think you'll see a lessening of your reaction. It can really make a difference. Or just take them with you when you're there. They'll go in a little bag. There are also a few things that you can do yourself. There's a Haymax balm that you can buy that you can rub it around your eyes, and it just collects the pollen particles and lessens them. If you have, if you're in your hotel room and it happens to have, filtration, air conditioning, other things, do keep the windows shut, because if you're letting all the pollen in through the windows, you're going to be much worse when you wake up. You can also irrigate a little bit, make a salt water mix up. If you've got a bit of salt and you've got some water, just to wipe your eyes, wipe your face at night, and take all those irritants off it. You'll feel a lot better.
Yeah. It's also not bad idea to lower your sugar intake as well, is it, and help your immune system out slightly.
It's hard to get people to do that on holiday, I've discovered. It can be a little tricky.
Throw it out there.
You can add a bit of extra vitamin C. Some extra vitamin C would be a good idea, and some extra plant foods, which the antioxidants will help you. But I struggle with getting people to lower their sugar when they've just got on holiday.
Okay. And so next question. So my stomach always gets messed up by planes and holidays. What can I do?
I would say that most people get messed up by traveling. I even would say my stomach gets a bit messed up, even going to London on the train and just spending the day there. And I think it's because we probably weren't meant to travel like that long term. And I think our bodies kind of know that we've gone moving fast in something a long distance, as well as the fact that time zones change, and also all our eating habits change. We tend to get a bit dehydrated. A lot of people get a little bit constipated. So it's having a few remedies that help you deal with that. The first thing I would also say is to protect yourself against the food. So the food on planes and the food is pretty processed and not always very good for you. Maybe try and stick to as light food as you can. Just stick to the vegetables, just stick to a bit of fruit, you know, take some nuts and other things, drink plenty of water, don't drink the alcohol, that won't help. And I think as well as that, then there are a few great natural remedies. Activated charcoal is one that you can buy very easily online. Take a couple of tablets if you think your stomach's getting a bit unhappy. And then some things to help constipation. You know, vitamin C high dose, even if you're stuck anywhere, those high dose vitamin Cs, even the disposable ones, they're not great, but you can take them. You can take 5 of them. You can take quite a high dose of vitamin C. And its only side effect is it's a bit of a laxative, but it's a natural one that won't hurt your digestion. So it'll just get things moving, and just go up with those until you come down. If there's nothing else, just take the vitamin C. And the other thing we often think is a good idea to take with you is a probiotic, just to help your stomach with the change in food, if you can get one in your bag, and possibly some psyllium husk, which can be really great as an extra fiber, just to make sure everything keeps moving and you don't have a problem. It's not nice on holiday.
No, not at all. Good. So now this is on to Jessica's latest one, which is we were asking a while ago about sun protection. I am probably the palest person on the planet. And often when we go on holiday, it's actually Jessica's kids who are often going, "Auntie Xandra, have you got sun cream on?" Not the other way around. So actually we're looking at natural sun protection. So is there a natural sunscreen that you would recommend?
So I think for a long time we've used a lot of the ones that you can buy online, which are really good. Green People is a great brand. They also do the Organic Babies range, which is fantastic. And we actually tend to use those for adults too, because we know there's nothing bad in them. Yeah, Xandra would be a good example there. They can be a little white, so you have to rub them in quite well. There's also the Badger Balm one. There are Dr. McCauley used to do a great one as well.
Yeah, John Masters did a fantastic one.
John Masters did a great one, but they stopped making it, which is very upsetting. And there are probably some other suggestions, but actually this year we've got into the idea we're going to make our own. Yeah. Because there are different ways that you can do blocking sunscreen. One of them is to block chemicals. It's a chemical sunscreen, and that absorbs UVA, UVB, but that's where all the toxins come in. Yep. And sunscreens are actually pretty carcinogenic. When you look at their ratings, there's some terrifying statistics for them. And I think about 80% on the market have something that's carcinogenic in them in order to try and protect you from the sun, which is not. It's defeating the object a little bit. You can actually also consider that by taking vitamin D, by taking astaxanthin, which is a natural substance, you can actually improve the body's ability not to burn, which can help you as well. And you can do it by physical blocking. And the way you physically block from the sun is to use a mineral sunscreen, and that contains just zinc oxide. So look for a sunscreen that you recognize all the natural ingredients in that cream. There are no weird chemicals in there, but the main constituent is zinc oxide that you're using just as a blocking. And that's why we want to have a go at making our own. And we've thought, we had a look, Dr. Axe has a great recipe that we think we're going to pinch and add some stuff to it. What we think we might do is combine it with the insect repellent. So we've got an insect repelling sunscreen, and we'll post that maybe on social media, but also on the Natural Doctors, just so you can have a go at that as well. We'll see how it goes, and we'll see how we look with it. And we might have to test it out and check it works. But actually, I think probably a lot of people, the zinc oxide always works. It's a good sunscreen.
Center Parks, here we come.
Yeah, so much healthier and much better for your skin.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, on to the next one. So how do I know if my makeup and shampoo has toxins in it?
So this is a question, I think something actually everyone should consider. Our skin is a massive area to absorb toxins. And a lot of us forget, we get really good with our food and our diet and our physical health, but we forget that we can absorb it through our skin. That includes cleaning products. That includes everything we come in contact with. And a lot of these toxins, just touching them, we can absorb them. Plastics, clean films. And I think we talked to Dr. Jenny Goodman, who's amazing and wrote a book on toxins, if you want to go and read it. That's absolutely brilliant. But for a simple, if you're in a shop and you want to know, is this a good shampoo? Is this not a good shampoo? Unfortunately, most of the ones you'll find are actually not good shampoos. However, there are certain ranges like Weleda and Faith in Nature, and again, Green People. Waitrose has quite a lot of the natural brands now. Dutch Organics does a few there as well. Yep, and so you can trust a few more of the brands, but you still should look at the back of them and think, do I recognize that, or is it a chemistry experiment I've never heard of? Google it. If you're really not sure, Google it. There are a couple of websites that can help you. One's the Environmental Working Group, the ewg.org. You can go on there and you can look up the chemicals, and they'll tell you how safe they actually are, not just you'll get a chemical you don't understand, but that'll really give you an idea. And they often recommend you some brands, which is really helpful for things like sun cream. There's also a nice app called Cosmetics, which is a nice app. You can go and look. It's not got every brand on it, but that will help you put it in, and it'll tell you, is that clean, and it rates it on a system. And your other option is to make some of your own things. With skin creams, we get overcomplicated, and a lot of what you get when you buy something like creme de la mer is marketing. It's marketing. A very small amount of that is actually medicinal. There's an awful lot of chemicals in there, which you don't want. So, coconut oil is a great moisturizer. You can add it to other things to make it work really well. We make our own lip balms for a range in the clinic, and I think it's actually a lot easier than you think. There's loads of YouTube videos now to show you how to do it.
There's a lot of companies now that kind of do base products. We get all ours from a soap kitchen, and soap kitchen do a lot of organic bases. And I know we add things to it. Then we just add, you know, a few essential oils to it.
It's the Chinese herbs.
And you've got a lovely product then that, you know, it's got natural bases, doesn't have parabens in it, doesn't have SLS in it. It's basically, it's got nice things in it.
And you could do that yourself and add essential oils to the smell you like.
And it's not expensive. I mean, what you'll find is you'll end up with a really nice organic product that probably cost you £4 to make instead of £20 to buy. If you want to buy one, I know we do really quite like Neome's body lotions. They are fantastic because they smell really, really amazing.
It's like you don't have to wear perfume. You can just put them on. They're great.
And it lasts all day, which is fantastic, especially in summer. We don't want to be wearing huge amounts of perfume. But Neome is another one that's great. As for makeup, as you can probably tell from these videos, me and Jess do wear makeup, and quite a lot of it, especially when we're working from a professional front. So we do enjoy makeup, but our makeup is very, very well sourced. We go to Naturismo online.
You're pretty safe on that website. Anything that you buy on there will be pretty good.
Just done a huge amount of research basically into, you know, how to make sure our makeup is not only looks good, but also is actually very good for the environment and good for us as well. And then we just got a makeup artist who came along and showed us how to put it on properly, because apparently you can buy it all but can't put it on. Now it's like paint by numbers. But it's a very good thing to know, because it's all very well going to a shop and buying loads of makeup, but it is going to be full of rubbish. You want to just make sure what you're putting on your skin is good, because it amazes me how many videos I watch on YouTube where they show you how to put makeup on, but their skin underneath it is shocking, and it's often because of the chemicals that they're putting on, and it's how much they then have to put it on to cover that up. So it's a very good idea to do that. I mean, we certainly don't have any spots at all, so it's worth having a look at. Perfect.
Maybe I'll ask you a little bit of this too, yeah? What's the best way to rehydrate if you get sunstroke?
So I have had sunstroke a number of times because I have to be usually shouted at to come
English
in.
Rose.
Yes, I am a little bit. So it's just the first thing I would say is it's always a good idea to try and see if you can prevent this before you get it. So I go everywhere with water. I really do. I drink huge amounts from in the garden. I probably average 4 litres a day. Normally when I'm working, if I'm in the garden, I could easily get to 5 litres of water a day. I add lots of lemons and limes to my water. I'm very careful with my minerals. I do add salt to my food, but only like pink salt. In terms of if I know I've pushed it a bit too far, I know in summer there's always coconut water in my fridge. Coconut water has a very similar mineral makeup to the drip you'd get in a hospital. So it's fantastic at hydrating you, tastes good too. And I will often mix it through my drink. So often I'll do half and half coconut water, fill it with normal water.
It's high in potassium and it's high in magnesium. It's really, really fantastic electrolyte. It's better than any electrolyte rehydrator that you'll find. And the other thing to consider in there is the homeopathic remedy belladonna, which is like my go-to remedy for I've overheated in the sun. And we even give it to the dogs at times.
We had to give it to the dog this week.
Yeah, she actually went into some kind of panting thing, and Xandra gave her belladonna and she got a lot better. And we give it to the kids if they overheat. You know, just a belladonna 30 will often calm it down. It also works really well for temperatures and fevers, so it's a good one to have in the house. And I think, you can use if you get sunburn, you've got to think about aloe vera and put it in the fridge and cool it down, and then it's really cold. And you just keep it in the fridge, and it just means you can just slap it straight on if anyone gets a bit hot or red. And we use a body cream that also has loads of aloe vera in the base, and we find that is just fantastic. Even if you're slightly red when you've overdone it a little bit, you'll find it just cools straight down.
Put it on at night, the next morning it's gone. And it's a very specific type of headache that you know when you get sunstroke, and that is always on the very, very top of your head. That's usually a sign that you're actually dehydrated. If you feel that headache right in the very, very top coming on, go and drink straight away. Get coconut water, especially when you're abroad as well. It's so easy to get coconut water. They'll probably just give you a coconut. It's
also the sun's a lot hotter when you're abroad, so you often forget. That's how I got sunstroke when I was in Croatia. I fell asleep on a boat and I woke up. I don't think I've ever been so ill in my life. And belladonna did actually cure it, but it wasn't easy. So but coconut water would have fixed a lot of it
massively. On to the next one. So I'm struggling with heartburn. How do I help it?
So a lot of people get heartburn, and it's a bit complicated because it depends what's causing your heartburn. I think you should always think about food triggers. Is anything triggering off my heartburn? Can I see that when I eat that food, I get heartburn? Consider what I said about those hot foods, those spicy foods. A lot of people can see that gives them heartburn, but actually a lot of people can see greasy food does the same things because it's quite hard to digest. You know, I'm a heartburn sufferer if I eat the wrong food, and my nemesis is pastry. It's most definitely pastry. So actually, a lot of people think it's too much acid, but rather than being too much acid, it's more that you're kind of producing large amount of poor quality acid. So the quality of the acid is not as good as it should be. So apple cider vinegar, is a remedy that's really great, that if you have that with your meal, a dessert spoon, or if you can take it, or a teaspoon, if not, I quite like the vinegar, so I don't know, but it can make it much easier to digest, and you'll feel a lot better, and simple and in most people's cupboards. But you can also consider not drinking loads of water with it to dilute your food, and that makes it hard to digest. And I think you can look at things like digestive enzymes, which can really help with that too. And there are some good supplements just to test and see if you think it is the acid quality. One of those would be betaine and pepsin. Cytoplan do a really nice one. Take one with your big meals and just see if it's better. If it gets worse, stop it. But if it feels like it's getting better, then keep doing that. And think about the fact also that, sometimes it's to do with your core and your strength in your core. So sometimes after babies, it gets worse. Doing some core exercises, doing some exercise there can strengthen that area and mean you're less likely to have a problem as well.
And kefir, honestly.
Oh yeah, kefir. That was a very important one. I missed.
Sorry, kefir is my favourite, because we actually introduced you to kefir when you were pregnant with Amelia, because she was a walking flame.
Yes.
And actually, after I'd talk about kefir for ages, but oh, let me try it. And honestly, it was the first 2 hours she'd had of no heartburn. We were like, can we just keep giving it to you all through the day?
Oh, it's great. It's absolutely brilliant. And it works really well. So I think you can take that at night. It's good for you anyway. It's a massive probiotic, fantastic for you in lots of ways. But yeah, for heartburn, it's fantastic. So I think, apart from having a herbalist, that can be great. That was great. We've got someone suggesting that they can try shade sunscreen, which only has 4 ingredients. I think I've heard of that. That sounds fantastic.
That's a brilliant one.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Brilliant. So that's everything for our question and answers today. I'm sorry if we didn't get around to your questions, but we will, like I said, we will hold these every single month, and we'll keep going through them.
Yeah.
They're all going to be now recorded, and of course they're all going to be put onto naturaldoctors.com.
So they're also on our YouTube site. If you want to go and watch them later,
channel.
They're also there on our channel.
It was lovely to hear from you all, and we'll see you all again soon.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.